Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
In this new year, 2016, both Groundhog Day and the State of the Union address to Congress will occur on the same day. This is an ironic juxtaposition of events. One involves a meaningless ritual in which we look to an insignificant creature of little intelligence for prognostication. The other involves a groundhog. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. We need a Pledge of Allegiance person. Good morning. Thank you very much, and welcome to another week of fun and frolic, Zeb at the Ranch, and, of course, our major sponsor here, Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great, fantastic advertisers like Western Way Services. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage. All you have to do is call them at 734-6969. And right now, let's, without further ado, go to the phone lines and get our Pledge of Allegiance on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
That's not the phone line. It sounds like the mic line. Good morning. You're the man. Go ahead.
Will do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done, Wheels. Thank you very much. And right now it's time for the weather. And the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. All your carpet, all your flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to really make your house an individualized home just for you. They can help at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather as we kick off another work week. Mostly sunny and slightly breezy for today. Expect a high of 30, overnight low of 17. Tomorrow, pretty much the same, but more clouds will be moving into the area. Wind's going to be picking up just a skosh. High of 34 with an overnight low of 19. Mostly cloudy and 37 for Wednesday. Afternoon sunshine for Thursday with a high of 35, but unfortunately as we get on into the weekend, looks like we do have some snow showers in the forecast. Highs are going to be in the low 30s. Yesterday's high was 29 degrees and the overnight low was 17. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, she does a great job. Thank you, Gina. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And again, they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And I'm telling you, these folks know all about helping you get something special in your home. Carpet, flooring, everything, whatever you need, like I said, to make your house a home. From Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Nice people. We got a dinner coming up this weekend on Saturday. I want to quickly mention to you the American Legion Post 82 and American Legion Auxiliary Unit 82 in Eden is hosting a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for Jim and Kathleen I can't remember. I'm embarrassed. I've known that family for a long time. Is it Kathleen or Kathleen Coleman? I'm not sure. They lost everything in a house fire. And there's going to be held this next... No, wait a minute. No. It's not going to be held this next Saturday. It's on the 23rd of January. Pardon me. I thought it was this next Saturday. It's not. It's going to be from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Snug Bar and Grill, 165 West Wilson in Eden on January 23rd. And this is going to be a cost of $10 with 100% of the proceeds going to the Colemans. They're also going to have a silent auction and live music starting at 7 p.m. with Gina Jones. There you go. Everybody try to support that family. Thank you. Don't forget, Daryl's Cleaners. My goodness sakes, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Got to stop in there today. You may see me over there. Stop up and say howdy. And just like, what is it? Mini Pearl. Mini Pearl with the price tag on her hat. Howdy. I love that. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and take all my clothes in there. They do the best job anywhere, anybody. You better believe it. Daryl's Cleaners, Kevin and Cindy, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. By the way, SafeLink Internet, great service. I'm trying to think of the guy's name that was here this weekend, as a matter of fact. What a nice person he was. Great personality. And the wind had disrupted everything with their towers for a while. And they got everything back up and running thanks to some very nice people. You call them, get on the program today. No contract options, no credit checks, unlimited data. And the number to call, 677-8000. You call them, Idaho's number one choice for wireless internet, 18 years and counting. SafeLink Internet. Call them today. Wow. You know where I'm headed on this next story. I'll bet you do. Wow and double wow. I'm talking about in sports. I hope Jack Euler's listening this morning because I want to rub salt into the wound. In sports, there is that certain moment. There is that certain play. There is that certain hit or that basket or that pass that suddenly it trips the go switch on the entire team, and that's what happened yesterday to the Green Bay Packers. Now, everybody knows out there that I am a very eccentric and ecstatic. Those are two good words. Green Bay Packer fan. Have been all my life, been to a lot of the games, know a lot of the Packer players from the decades when they were just absolutely invincible. Well, Green Bay had been in a terrible low spot. As a matter of fact, they couldn't get out of the ditch. They were so far down they had to climb up on their belly. They were really playing poorly. As a matter of fact, poor as any potential playoff team. They backed into the playoffs. They were below mediocrity. The offense that the first 6 games of the season, they were invincible, and then it fell down an elevator shaft to the worst in the NFL. Then yesterday, in the first playoff game against the Washington Redskins, one pass, one play, one catch ignited a team that couldn't put 2 and 2 together to get 4, but they kept getting like 1 or 2. They absolutely just went nuts. Excuse my cough. And they went from 11-0 down to 35-18 winners. Yes, I did my victory dance, even with my bad hip and knee. Yes, I yelled and screamed and hollered until Ruby the dog went out and hid on the back porch. Yes, I will take that dinner proudly from Jack Euler and savor every bite. And now, I don't know if this is a good thing or not. They go to Phoenix next weekend and play the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have been a little tough. Anyway, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I had to get that little football note in there. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. They have got all your heating and electrical needs and all your furnace filters. We're in for some cold weather for quite a period of time. You might as well make sure that furnace is going to work really, really good for you. So please stop in and see them today. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. You know, before I tell you another story, I want to also remind you, the other day, Deanna and I had the day from heck. It was on Friday. We had to run here. And then we had to run over here. And then when we finished up running there, we had to run over here and then get this and stop there and go to this other place. My goodness, we put on like 1,000 miles. And we stopped at Denny's restaurant. Greatest little stop we made that day. And I'll tell you, naturally, I love breakfast. That's my favorite meal. And I had that favorite meal, you know, with the sausage and the tortilla shells and the eggs over easy on the potatoes and all the onions and everything. Oh, I mean, knock your socks off. Delicious. You'll love the meals at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley and 291 Poline Road in Twin Falls. America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Well, for heaven's sakes, where have you been hiding?
We've been in Las Vegas for the winter, and I had to come home for an appointment, but I wanted to make sure I got a chance to call you.
Well, my goodness, how's everything down in the land of lost money and can't find it?
Well, there's almost a murder every day or a terrible wreck or something, but anyway, what I wanted to talk about this morning is the solar industry, and I know how you feel about this because it's the same way I feel. But down there in Las Vegas, where they have the ideal conditions for solar, because the sun shines almost every day in southern Nevada, they're pulling out.
Really?
They're laying people off left and right.
You know, what you could do for me, Keith, is maybe put me in contact with some people down there that can get me some on-air personalities and visits, and I'd love to talk to them about that.
Yeah, there's this gal that does the morning show. Her and her husband are a team.
Yeah.
And I will see if I can get hold of that station and give them your number and see if you can get something put together, because they know exactly what's going on. I really don't know the facts, but I do know that it is a terrible situation for that industry. The power companies, I don't know if it's Nevada Power or what it is down there, they're refusing to buy it, buy their access now, and, you know, they just said they've had enough, and I'd look for them to just abandon the solar industry as a industry, you know, in other words, like a power company. The individual housing, you know, the panels that go on the houses will probably be okay.
Well,
but
I'll tell you what,
power companies aren't going to pay as much for the buyback.
That's right. I tell you what, Keith, if you can find those names, I will call them. And I've got a lot of friends down there in the media industry, and I might even know these people. So give me a jingle on that and let me know. And it's nice to hear from you. I wondered where you went. Well, God bless you. I got to do a commercial break, but call us while you're here, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
All right, buddy.
And you have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
Good to hear back from him. And we'll try to do some updates with some of those folks down in Las Vegas. Don't forget, every Tuesday we have Minnecasia Sales bringing you Dr. History at 10:06 on Tuesdays. And Minnecasia Sales located at 1321 East Main Street in Burley. My goodness, right across from the airport. All your lumber. You're getting ready for maybe a spring renovation on your home or your garage or whatever. They've got all the lumber. They've got everything, all the windows, everything you need right there at Minnecasia Sales. Good folks. 1321 East Main Street in Burley. As I said, bringing you Dr. History. Oh, by the way, before we do our next little story, calls are welcome, I want to add, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I start today, this afternoon, at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Again, I'm telling you, I put it off, and you know, it wasn't because I didn't want to go, it's because of my terrible schedule. Well, I looked at the schedule, and I said, hey, come on. And my wife was chiding me, you got to get back in there. They are the best at helping you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Great, great staff of physical therapists and all the exercises, all the sports therapy, and the only hydrotherapy pool in the area with a treadmill. Call for an appointment today, 678-1191. 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Caller, thank you. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, on the football deal, I'll take the Cardinals for a home-cooked steak ribeye.
You know, this sounds like a professional antagonist that I know very well, and I will take that bet because, and I want you to promise me, turn your radio off for a second there, partner. Turn your radio off. I want you to promise me that it's not going to be some 10-year-old old Coriandy Ropensteer that I'm going to eat, right?
Oh, it'll be a 12. tenderized with a hammer.
Yeah. Okay, you got the bet. Green Bay's going to beat the Cardinals on.
Give me any points.
I'm not giving. I wouldn't give you the time of day on that game.
Okay. Have a good day.
See you later, buddy. Oh, I tell you what, I honestly, I saw a change in the personality yesterday. As you know, I grew up back in that neck of the woods, back in the Wisconsin area, Green Bay. And I knew all the old stars, you know. That's not to drop names. It's just the way it was. Bart Starr and Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor, Jerry Kramer, one of the nicest guys in the world, Bob Skoronski, Max McGee, the list just goes on and on. Well, I saw a resurgence yesterday. My wife has even turned into a Packer-backer fan. And all of a sudden, that one play, and we're going, yeah, they're back. How long they stay there, I don't know. Anyway, how would you like to be the kicker for the Minnesota Vikings? They are only 27 yards away from a winning field goal against the Seattle Seahawks. They have the ball. They have control. That 27-yard field goal, only 81 feet. 81 feet to victory. Any professional kicker can make that kick. He missed, and the Seahawks win. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Grace Hood. Ray Hood calls in pretty often. I'm his wife. He had heard that there was a fire in Merton. A family lost everything. And we were wanting to know some details about, how we could help them.
Now, bear with me on this because I think it was the fire I've been talking about, Jim Coleman, that was south of Hazelton. South of Hazelton, Jim Coleman family, they lost everything. And all you have to do is just contact, I'll give you a number here,
Okay.
Gene Brown, and I am trying to find Gene's number all of a sudden. I had it right here on my desk, and do you suppose I can keep track of what I had? But anyway, get a hold of the Hazleton office, the city office, and they can tell you what they need and what the situation is, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. All right, very nice call. People wanting to help other people. Thank you very much. I want to change gears here a little bit. And I listened, and I hope you did too, to the news this weekend. And there's a lot of words that I would like to use about the new mayor of Philadelphia. But I've kind of chosen and bitten my lip a little bit and narrowed it down to ridiculous, pathetic, and absolutely naive. Basically, what the new mayor of Philadelphia was doing was comforting and excusing Islam for their terror. And this Muslim man in particular that walked up to a police car and fired 16 shots. Fortunately, he wasn't a very good shot, 3 of which hit the officer in the left arm and side, in nothing more than a brazen attack at just killing a policeman. In the name of Allah Akbar, in the name of ISIS, and in the name of Islam. And yet, while all this is going on, the mayor of Philadelphia basically excused the situation and referred to the problem as one of being without gun control. I about fell out of my geezer chair. Honestly, I was that distraught. The mayor got on television and basically at a press conference said that the shooting had nothing to do with Islam. Now, the fact is the guy is a Muslim. The fact is the guy had gone to the Middle East on a couple of trips. The fact is that he was radicalized. The fact is that he shouted Allah, Allah Akbar. The fact is that he had pledged his allegiance to ISIS. And this idiotic, imbecilic, absolutely not worthy of holding any office other than dog catcher, mayor of Philadelphia, comforts and excuses the situation against Islam? What kind of basic, absolute lunatics are running the asylum back there? Why are we so quick, from the president to the attorney general to now this so-called mayor of Philadelphia, to excuse what's going on? It was a Muslim. It was an allegiance to ISIS. It was his allegiance to the Islamic faith, Allah Akbar. And they cover it up. Why do we have cowards as leaders? Please give me a call on that. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. You know, they are filtering out their last year's equipment. In other words, you can save a lot of money. And they're going to cycle out a bunch of the rental fleet and a lot of their used Coyote tractors and used Bobcat equipment. Oh, you can save a lot of moolah, money, with great financing options available. So you better get a hold of Barry Equipment and Rental today. 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. Barry Equipment and Rental. You stop in or give them a call today. Come on now, don't let me down. I got the greatest audience in the world. Give me a call. While I'm waiting for your calls, I want to remind you about Mount Harrison Audiology. I hope you're hearing everything. We'll make an appointment today with the lovely Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, and she can help. By the way, I'm going to be getting over there, hopefully, if not this week, next week. She is just absolutely so good about hearing and hearing problems and what might be causing it. It might be something with your health. It might be something with your medication. It could be any number of things. Please get a hearing screening today. Call 312-0957. They're right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to give away a half dozen cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox. I am in the mood. Oh, have you ever had one of those cinnamon rolls? Oh, they are so good and gooey and just so tasty. I love them. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 E Street in Rupert. And here is the question for the day for first-time winners only. And the number to call, 436-2244. Okay, this is an easy one. Absolutely an easy one. From the I Love Lucy TV series, Fred and Ethel Mertz, what was Fred's job? What did Fred do for a living? What did Fred Mertz do for a living? Somebody give me a call, quickly, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And if you're the winner of the cinnamon rolls, then all you need to do is call Sophie's and let them know when you'll be in there to pick them up, 436-0354. Somebody call 436-2244. What did Fred Mertz on the TV show I Love Lucy, what did he do for a living? That's an easy one. Come on, give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gee, I thought it was an easy one. Come on, somebody. Evidently, is everybody on a diet? Well, those cinnamon rolls, the size of a football, each one of them, oh my goodness sakes, they're delicious, and you can be the lucky winner. Just think how proud your office will be or whatever when you walk in with those. You better grab onto one yourself, you'll lose it. Anyway, give me a call. What did Fred Mertz from the I Love Lucy show, what in the show did he do for a living? What's the matter, Wheels? Are you not watching the phone?
No.
Oh, you just keep your eyes focused on that light, okay?
Like an eagle.
That a boy, sharp eye. We need somebody to call for. I can't imagine. That's the easiest question. I'm giving away a delicious half dozen cinnamon rolls from Sophie's, and nobody knows the answer to this. I've got a picture in my mind's eye that a lot of people are running to the computer, and they're Googling I Love Lucy, and they're saying, what did he do for a living? What did he do for a living? What did Fred Mertz? There was Fred and Ethel, and they were the sidekicks to Lucy and Ricky. What did they do? Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. What's your name?
Hello?
Hello. Quickly, caller. Don't sit there. Who are you?
What, was he a chef?
No. Thank you. Nope. He was the furthest thing from a chef, believe me. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. What's your answer?
Was he a janitor?
No. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. God bless you for your try. We've had a chef and a janitor. It's close, but not in the same ballpark. Does that make any sense? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, was he the building maintenance supervisor?
Oh, now you really got me splitting hairs. Who is this?
This is Bruce Hosfeld.
What's the last name, Bruce?
Hosfeld.
How do you spell that? Go ahead and give me the spelling.
Hossfeld.
Okay. Now I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. Give me your answer one more time.
He was the maintenance supervisor for the apartment building.
Okay, he was actually, in some respects, in some of the programs on I Love Lucy, called the apartment landlord. But you know what? He was in charge of fixing everything. I'm going to give you those those cinnamon rolls. So you call Sophie's and tell them when you're going to be over there to pick them up, and congratulations, okay?
All right. Thank you.
God bless you, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, he was the apartment landlord, manager, and repair guy. They had many, many shows where the furnace went out or the heat went out upstairs or whatever it is. And that's the lucky boy. I didn't think we'd ever get a winner this morning. Thank you very much. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What, honestly, I would like to hear from you folks. Do you feel that the media in general and the administration with Obama and the White House and politicians in general, are they giving, and I want your honest answer on this, are they giving Islam and Muslims a pass? And why? Why? Why is there a fear that they might step on their toes? Why is there a concern that we are not being politically correct? Why? Give me a call on that at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, I heard some good things are going on for a winter clearance over at Redder's Showcase. My goodness sakes, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. Did you hear about this? Well, let me tell you, you can take advantage of one-of-a-kind floor models, overstocked and scratch and dent models, and huge discounts, and they carry Whirlpool, Amana, Maytag, and KitchenAid, and I'm telling you, even in the bedding department, they've got Serta and Tempur-Pedic and Therapeutic. They've got them all for you at some cases up to 40 and 30% savings. You better stop in today, and 12 months same as cash on approved credit at Redder's Showcase. Don't wait. Tell them Zeb sent you. Go on in. Zeb sent me. Okay. Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley, serving you. All right, let's get some calls going here. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Thank you, caller. Right on cue. Good morning. You're on the air. What's going on?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Looks like the making of a gorgeous day.
Every day that you get out of bed and take that great big first full stretch is a beautiful day.
Yes, it is.
It hurts like heck, but it's a beautiful day.
I ate too many Snap, Crackle, Pop cereals when I was growing up. The Rice Krispies are coming out now.
I'll tell you what, you get to be my age old. I'm an old timer now. And when I get out of bed, what's that?
You remember when dirt was new, didn't you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think I dug the first hole. Anyway, what's going on with you, my friend?
Oh, the reason that we're giving the Muslims a pass, the administration and everything, and if anybody's ever read any of Obama's biographies or watched any of those movies, it explains it right there.
Doug, I want to throw this at you real quick before you go any further. I honestly feel, and I believe this, and I'm not going to be shamed or I'm not going to be downgraded by the likes of the Times News or anybody else on the Democratic Party. I honestly believe right now that there is a huge movement in this country of acceptance of the Muslim way, the Muslim life, and their ideology. And I honestly believe it's going to be the downfall of the American culture and our value system.
It is. And I'm sorry to apologize, but I've got to...
Oh, you got to cut me off and answer that phone. All right, you got work to do. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What do you folks think about this? And you know what? I read an article the other day in USA Today, and honestly, I agree with the opinion that we, the American people, are being cowed and forced and coerced into not speaking out and just accepting this. What are your thoughts, and are you concerned? You know, every day in the Times News, and I know I'm nitpicking, but that's part of my job. Every day in the Times News, there seems to be something new that absolutely is trying to coerce us or arm twist us into accepting people coming into this area and forcing us to accept and pay for more changes to our culture. Yesterday's paper had a huge 1, 2, 3, 4 section about the refugees coming into this area. And basically putting us that are not in favor of it in the worst light possible. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, you're right on, and I'm concerned that, you know, Governor Otter in the paper, he indicated he met with federal officials. Well, some of us met with those same, perhaps, federal officials, and, you know, reassured him that the vetting process was okay, and yet Homeland Security, FBI say that it's no. You know, come on. It's a big lie that they can protect us or properly vet these people because there's no boots on the ground. And the other part you've been talking about, why do we have this deal that we protect all the Muslims? You know, look at the mayor in Philadelphia after this guy openly says he was with ISIS and doing it in Allah's name, shot this cop up there last week. You know, and then the mayor says, well, this had nothing to do with Islam. Oh, for crying out loud. Give me a break. I think everybody realizes that this is going on. And then you read Krofheimer's editorial yesterday in the paper. You know, the Obama administration with 11 different Muslims that are associated right there in the State Department with Obama, they're making sure that our whole foreign policy is such that we give Iran a pass, basically make them kingpin over there, and we just back off. And so we have to realize who's running the show. Yet you realize, of course, Simpson said we had no Muslim influence in the White House or in the State Department. And on the other note is the United Nations is the one that selects these refugees coming in here. They've never been our friend, and they're not bringing in Christians. They're bringing in Muslims to take over this country.
I agree with you, Adrian. I've got a whole slug of calls waiting, but I just want to let you know that in just a moment I'm going to be talking about one of those or two of those refugees that came here from Iraq, and all that glitters is not gold. And thank you for your call, and thank you for what you stand for. I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, have a good one, Mike.
All right.
People wake up. We've got to stop this stuff and get hold of the governor and tell him that you wake up and smell the coffee.
Amen. God bless. Thank you very much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, caller. Wheels, where is the caller on that line? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Do you know that the best friend that ISIS has is the news media? And I'll tell you why. Because every time they get a scare into a school or something like that that's not authentic or anything, they think they're winning, and they're going to continue to do that as long as the news media keeps feeding all this information.
Right, right. No, I agree with you, and I've got a little story I want to read that was on the front page of the USA Today last Friday, and I think that'll kind of taint a little bit of the feelings about our wonderful refugees coming in here. Thank you, Keith. God bless you, man. I appreciate it. Always appreciate your calls. You know, this acceptance is foolhardy. Of people that are leaving their countries and coming here and saying that they've been all absolutely vetted, everything is known about these people. That's not true. That is a blatant lie, whether it's through CSI or whether it's through the Times News. I have here the headline, and I'll just read you a couple of highlighted areas. Refugees charged in terror cases. Dateline, Washington. Terrorism charges were unveiled late Thursday last week against two Iraqi refugees living in the United States who allegedly sought to provide aid to groups operating in Syria, according to the federal court documents. Now listen to this. According to court documents, Ali Hardan sought to join ISIS and swore untruthfully, let me repeat those words to you, swore untruthfully on his format application to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. You don't mean that they lied? Yeah, They lied. He allegedly represented that he was not associated with a terrorist organization when in fact he associated with members and sympathizers of ISIS. Gee, they tried to get into this country and they lied. Can you imagine that? And we bought their lie hook, line, and sinker for a time. What's the difference with all the refugees coming in? Absolutely no vetting process, absolutely no computer files, absolutely no background because they left their country's in turmoil. There is no background checks or computer files. And the Wonderful Times News keeps force-feeding us with an acceptance factor that I'm not buying into. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, if you are a business and you need to have certain types of things for promotion for your business, whether it's clothing with jackets or caps or whatever, or whether it's writing instruments with pens and pencils or calendars or whatever, the place to go is Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert, with Nicole and the rest of the crew. Simply put, they are the best. They really care. Please get a hold of them today. Mad River Laser in Rupert. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather as we kick off another work week. Mostly sunny and slightly breezy for today. Expect a high of 30, overnight low of 17. Small, pretty much the same, but more clouds will be moving into the area. Wind's going to be picking up just a skosh. High of 34 with an overnight low of 19. Mostly cloudy and 37 for Wednesday. Afternoon sunshine for Thursday with a high of 35, but unfortunately as we get on into the weekend, looks like we do have some snow showers in the forecast. Highs are going to be in the low 30s. Yesterday's high was 29 degrees and the overnight low was 17. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, she does a great job. Thank you very much. Weather brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Thank you very much. You know, why is it that we're so gullible and so accepting? And like in the case of the refugee center at CSI, oh, poor baby, we're just going to... And they come out with all these stories about their food, their culture, and the families who fled violence to begin a new life in our community, on and on and on. You know what? I am not at all certain that I can ever expect or respect people coming in en masse and changing and diversifying our culture. Talk to the people back in Michigan. Talk to the people in New Jersey. Talk to many people in Jacksonville, Florida, and around other parts of the country. They're not happy at all as to what's happening with a change of the American culture. And also the danger factors. Now, it doesn't take too many news stories like refugees charged in terror cases to get my attention, because all the glitters is not gold. What are your thoughts about this? Please give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. In other news, the affluenza teen's mother is in court today, and she's going to find out where or what might happen to her for aiding and abetting her little punk son to go down to Mexico and hide out while he was on probation. And money talks, and that's shameful. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb. Now, I don't know how true this is, other than I've heard about it and I've been looking into it. But as far as your refugee thing goes, apparently, and like I said, I'm still looking into it, so I'm not 100% sure. A kid was beat up in Twin Falls at the Walmart by some refugees because he stood up for his country.
Now, whoa, stop right there, Riley. Wait a minute, stop. Wait a minute, stop. I'm going to put the woe on you because I'm going to be fair on this issue like I am with any issue. No speculation. I only deal in facts, not speculation. And until you can find out as to, just a minute, until you can find out as to exactly if it did happen and the whys and whats and wheres, then fine. You can call back and you can make an allegation. But I don't like speculation and I don't like hearsay. I don't like anything that can't be verified.
Well, I was just asking for some help to find out some more information.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
I spent a lot of time on the phone.
I don't
looking for it.
I don't allow speculation on this program. That's the thing I won't allow. And you're a dear friend, a dear caller, but I got to set some parameters, and speculation is not allowed.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, if it's hearsay, or I heard, or this happened, but I got it from a 17th party, I don't want it on this show. I don't want it on the show. I only deal in the facts. That way you can never be backed into a corner. I'm not going to do that. I'm not backing my bus up for anybody. Once we get it in gear, we're going down the boulevard. That's the way it is. And I really appreciate all the calls, but until something can be verified and we can pick it apart as to this happened, this is why it happened, and here's the net result, I don't want it on this program. Don't want it. Calls are welcome, 436. There's others that'll take that stuff, but not me. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. They caught the Mexican drug lord El Chapo, and this is absolutely chilling to me. I could not believe this. When I was reading some of the investigative reports of this man and how heinous a criminal, he really is, that I heard that he is through the news media. I heard on CNN, Fox News, and NBC that this El Chapo, they have linked, this is astronomical, 32,000 deaths attributed to this drug lord and his army of corruption. Oh my goodness. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, the stuff about the refugees, you know, if these, like the people at Times News and all these other people who are supportive of it, CSI, you know, if they want them here so bad, let's house them at their house.
Okay. All right.
Let's put up a big fence so that they can only go in that certain area. You know, I'm not prejudiced. I try to accept everybody. And all Muslims are not bad. But the ones that are the ones that are coming into our country. They're raping our girls and boys. They're beheading Christians. They're performing evil acts on our country.
Well, wait a minute. Whoa.
Standing up and say enough is enough.
Okay, Donna, just a minute. I'm going to be fair again. Okay. We've got to be careful and not say they as an all-inclusive word, okay? Some of their numbers have done this, but my point is, and you and I are on the same page on this, that for the Times News and the refugee center at the college to say that the vetting process is way over and above and they know exactly who these people are or what they represent, that is a lie. They do not know who all these people are. So if I'm going to be careful and say that not all of them are doing criminal acts, which I will say naturally, then they can't say that all of them have been vetted properly and we know all about them, because that's not true either.
I totally agree with you. If the federal government can't vet these people and find out who they are, where they come from, how in the Sam hell is CSI and anybody else?
Yeah, and this deal about putting it in the paper about a strange new world, about all these people coming in here like we're supposed to have tears running down our cheeks and everything else. Wait a minute. I would have much rather supported the idea of making sure that they had safe zones in their own country, because I will say this, and I sound very prejudiced when I say this, I don't want all these people here trying to change our culture, trying to change our laws, trying to change and diversify the way we live. That's just the way it is. America is America. It's our melting pot. It's our country for one main reason, and that's to become all of us Americans.
Oh, I totally agree. And you know what? We're not going to be able to stop this until we get the man in the White House out. He's the one that's creating all this turmoil.
We have 374 more days.
I know. Isn't that just sad?
Okay, Donna, God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too, my friend.
All right, thank you. Hey, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations. What have they got? Well, you know they've got all your tires. They've got every tire for every vehicle for all driving needs. Now, we're supposed to get some more snow, not smo. It's with an N, Zeb. I looked it up. Snow towards the end of this week, and you'd better be traction ready. Yeah, buddy. They've got all the tread designs. They got the studded tires. They got the snow wheels. They got the chains. They got everything to get you through the bad weather. Everything. And then, of course, the very, very best in brake service. That's not brag. That's a fact. The best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Well, you'd better stop in and see my friends. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, my old buddy, on Overland in Burley. Oh, yeah, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. I just chuckled when I thought of Randy, because I can just imagine he did a double-toe tap dance around his living room yesterday when the Minnesota Vikings kicker missed that field goal and his Seahawks ended up winning. I'll bet you he raised the roof. I'll have to kid him about that. Oh, my goodness sakes. Calls are welcome and appreciated. And don't forget, you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them today at 312-0957. We're going to take a little break. Coming up next hour is a young man by the name of Preston Cooper from the Manhattan Institute. And he's going to be talking to us about the raising of the minimum wage. So don't miss that. I'll see you back in 6. Oh, man, look outside. As I look over on the north side, I see a lot of clouds and overcast and maybe even some fog, but right up above, ooh, that good-looking blue sky. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, our great friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, during the Christmas holiday season, we were talking about giving a really neat gift to like your mom and dad, aunt and uncle, or maybe even your neighbors, you know. I mean, a year of getting their garbage picked up from Western Waste. What a great gift when you find those people that are hard to get gifts for. There's an idea. And don't forget all the getting rid of your garbage. They've got all the dumpsters. They've got everything to serve you. They are always at your disposal. Call them today at 734 46969. Western Waste Services, serving you. Hey, by the way, too, don't forget every morning we start the program off with the weather forecast. First and foremost, from Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. I'm telling you what, these folks are fantastic, and they know all about home decor, kitchen construction, carpet and flooring, everything at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Real quick, too, I want to remind you, I had him on the air last week. Very, very nice man. Joel Heward, and, of course, representing Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And they are there when you need them. There is nothing more devastating than all of a sudden a loved one passes away and you just absolutely don't know where to dot the I's and cross the T's. Please let them help, and they will always, with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity of serving you. Hanson Mortuary, call them today for more information at 710 6th Street in Rupert, the number 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Going to go to the phone line right now, and I don't believe I have ever had this man on my program, but we will soon find out. And we say good morning to a policy analyst with the Manhattan Institute, Mr. Preston Cooper. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Preston, tell us a little bit about yourself and the Manhattan Institute. Give us a little background.
So I am a policy analyst at the Manhattan Institute. We are a nonpartisan think tank with one office in New York, one office in Washington, D.C., and we do economic policy research, trying to advocate policies that are going to make the country a better place to live.
All right, now I'm going to say this, and then I want you to tear it apart and tell me I'm wrong, if I'm wrong. I think the raising of the minimum wage possibly to $15 an hour is not only ludicrous, but it is going to take a lot of jobs available for entry-level jobs off the market, and it's going to create a bigger number of unemployment and cause a lot more problems economically. Am I wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. People who want to raise the minimum wage, even to $15 an hour, I have no doubt that their heart is in the right place. But the real problem is that lots of people, especially young people, those under 25, and minorities, are going to have a much more difficult time finding jobs when the minimum wage is raised. I mean, if you're a business owner, are you going to take a chance on a young person with no work experience, no skills, if you have to pay them $15 an hour? Of course not.
Well, now let's talk a little bit about this. I think the concept or the precept of having these $15 an hour jobs, and I've heard this and it makes me sick, and I want to have you respond to this. The number one thing we heard is, people can't make a living, people can't support a living, can't support a family, etc. on these minimum pay jobs. Wait a minute. That's why they're minimum pay jobs, is because they're entry-level jobs, something that hopefully you'll study harder and escalate yourself to a better paying job. They are not meant to be family-raising jobs. Am I wrong?
I think you're exactly right. The average amount of time that someone spends on a minimum wage job is less than a year. These are not jobs that people, for the most part, are supporting families on. These are entry-level jobs that people are taking in order to acquire some skills and make them more marketable in the job market. I mean, these jobs are jobs that we want to have available for people who might not have gone to a great high school, might not have a college education, people who need work experience in order to make themselves marketable in the job market. And if you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you're going to take away a lot of opportunity for people.
Preston, let me ask you this. When you look at the kids today that want to get a job, whether it's flipping burgers or whether it's working in a factory, sweeping floors, whatever the case might be, I think you know and employers know that's a very unreliable source of employment because they might be here today, gone tomorrow. I don't see any reason or rhyme as to how an employer can possibly sit down and offer some 17 or 18 or even 20-year-old kid that doesn't know if he's going to be back tomorrow or not $15 an hour. It's absolutely disruptive to his whole organization. Give us some facts about what's been showing up already, would you please?
Yes, well, there have been a lot of studies that have come out that have shown that almost all of the job losses from minimum wage increases have happened to people under 35, and most of those have happened to people under 25, under 20. That's because these jobs, these minimum wage jobs, are going to young people. And I'm so glad that you mentioned, not being sure whether they're going to be able to show up the next day, because these minimum wage jobs are a great way for people to learn skills in the workforce, like how to show up on time for work, for people to get into this pattern of reliably showing up for work, for working a 40-hour week, for making sure that they're going to be responsible, that they're going to responsibly hold their jobs before they move on to higher-paying jobs.
We've got a caller with a question, Preston, so stay tuned. If you can't hear this, let me know. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Yeah, quickly, I would like to tell or ask him if somebody is making $15 an hour and then they make minimum wage $15 an hour, what's that person going to do? Is he going to quit, or why is this guy that's just coming on board today going to get the same pay as you are, and you're skilled at it? So therefore, it goes up.
All right.
And the other thing that bothers me is us old duffers who are on Social Security. How about a raise there? We got to keep up with everything. All minimum wage does is just bring on another round of inflation.
Absolutely. Preston, go ahead and respond to that caller, please.
Yes, well, I'd say that's also a big problem, the inflation problem. If you raise the minimum wage to $10, $12, $15 an hour, that's going to mean that employers are going to have to raise their prices. That means they're going to have to charge more for things. And, if you go to Walmart, if you go to McDonald's, your burger or your grocery bill is just going to cost a lot more. And, that's going to hurt everybody. That's going to hurt the poor people who the minimum wage is trying to help, because they have the least income in order to absorb those increases in prices. So it's going to hurt everybody. There are a lot of unintended consequences of raising the minimum wage, and that's why I think it's just a very bad idea, even if the people who want to raise it, their hearts are in the right place.
Preston, you study this for a living, and you look at all the ins and the outs, but I'm going to be very blunt. That's how I am on this program. How can economists with the United States government and this Obama administration and in general Democrats, how can they be so damn dumb that they can't see the snowball effect of inflation with a raising of a mandatory minimum wage?
Oh, I would say that a lot of them really, really do want to help the poor people out there. But I'd say they have this myopia. They have this inability to see some of the job losses, because, a lot of them happen over long periods of time. A lot of them happen where businesses just don't open as fast. Businesses are going to close faster than they normally would when the minimum wage is raised, and they don't see those effects, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, because they're only focused so much on the short term. I'd say that's the reason that a lot of economists in the Obama administration and in other places can't see the job losses that are going to happen if the minimum wage is raised.
And here's something that really gripes me. I don't care if it's Mickey D's or if it's Wendy's or if it's Burger King. I don't give a rip who it is or what business it is. A lot of these people that are family-owned franchises, and they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears and their life's work into trying to keep that burger factory open for the general public, and then they're being demanded to by the federal government to give some snot-nosed kid $15 an hour to work for one day and then say he doesn't like it and quit. This is lunacy.
I think you're absolutely right that these kids that need these jobs in order to advance in the workforce. I mean, my first job was an unpaid internship. I didn't get paid anything. I lived at home. I just took a peanut butter sandwich to work every day. But that first internship, even though it was unpaid, enabled me to get a second internship, which was paid and eventually led to a job. So if you take away that first rung on the career ladder, a lot of kids are going to hurt. A lot of them are just not going to be able to advance in the job market the way they otherwise would.
You know, Preston, what do you think if I said this? And I've done a lot of research on this. I'm not a first-time guy on this subject by any means. But I look at this problem with the small businesses across America to where this administration, this Obama White House, they seem to have kind of a real itch on their arm against small business owners. And it seems to me like over the years that Obama's been in there, they have done everything they can to hurt small businesses. This is just another nail in the coffin. Do you agree with me or not?
Well, I would agree with you. I'd say the Obama administration's policy, has been very hard on small businesses. I don't think Obama intentionally means to hurt small businesses, but that's exactly what he's doing with these policies, like raising the minimum wage, making labor laws stricter, not allowing companies to offer unpaid internships anymore. A lot of these regulations are just making life so much harder for small businesses. I'm sure a lot of the owners of which are listening right now. And even though his heart is in the right place, I really wish the president would realize that there are unintended consequences to every policy out there, and he should think through them more before he advocates raising the minimum wage or doing some other sort of regulation.
Let me go to another spoke in the wheel here, Preston, and ask you this. I've had many, many people on my program, including my dear friend Dave Beagle from Indianapolis, Indiana, that fought the SEIU union, and he won about 4 years ago. But he has been on my program every week telling me that the SEIU and unions in general, they will stoop to anything to try to get more union power. Do you think the unions are really pushing this minimum wage and trying to get more power with the workers?
Yes, a lot of the unions have been pushing these minimum wage increases. In Los Angeles, they last year raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. This was pushed for by unions, and then you'll never believe it, but the unions asked for an exemption for their own members once the $15 minimum wage was passed. Which means that basically if you're not a member of a union, you're going to be unemployable because your employer is going to have to pay you $15 an hour. But if you are a member of the union, then your employer can pay you below that. And it's really, some of these minimum wage increases are definitely a play by the unions in order to reduce the competitiveness of non-union labor.
Okay, now, this is a kind of a speculative type question, Preston, but I'm sure you study this. What is it going to take with our school systems, with our labor force, whatever the situation is? What is it going to take to restore the good old American incentive that if you work hard, you can achieve your goals? You can start off as a burger flipper and you might end up owning the restaurant. What is it going to take to put that feeling back in America?
Well, there's a number of things we could do. One is taxes. Taxes are too high, especially on businesses. We should lower taxes in order to make ourselves more competitive with China, with Europe, with all these other countries that have been lowering their business taxes over the past several decades. Number two is regulation. There are just too many regulations on the books right now. They add about $1.9 trillion in costs to our economy every year, and that's just on the federal level. There's just a lot that we could do in order to restore our competitiveness, in order to bring jobs back here to America that we're not doing. And I really hope that this administration or the next administration will take these causes of tax reform and regulatory reform up, because we really need them.
All right, let me ask you, who's really pushing it? Who's saying to the government this joke of a White House that we have now? Who's saying to prospective candidates for the possibility of getting the presidential nod? Who's really pushing this thing to make them aware that they better clean up this act?
Well, there's a lot of people on both sides who have ideas. There's a lot of good ideas and bad ideas out there, but I'm just happy that at least we're talking about tax reform, at least we're talking about regulatory reform, because these are things that the economy really needs. And before this election cycle, they've kind of just gone under the rug and haven't been talked about. But I think I really do have confidence that this time around in 2016, we're finally going to start talking about these issues that are really hurting the American economy.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate you coming on the program. And Preston Cooper, a policy analyst with the Manhattan Institute. Is there anything else you'd like to mention that maybe I forgot to ask about this morning?
Well, I just say here's what it comes down to. You know, the people who want to raise the minimum wage to $10 or $15 an hour, I do think that their hearts are in the right place. But they have to realize that there are unintended consequences of their actions. It's going to make it harder for businesses to hire workers. It's going to make it harder for young people to climb the economic ladder. And it's just going to make it harder for the American economy to get back to what it could be.
Absolutely. Preston, thanks for coming on. We'll look forward to having you back again, okay?
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. God bless. Preston Cooper with the Manhattan Institute, a nonpartisan think tank that looks at the pros and the cons of every issue, and they give an unbiased opinion. And you could hear what he said. Raising the minimum wage is absolutely a farce. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, my goodness sakes. You know what? Now's a great day. Today is a great day to get over to Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. That's where the fun is sold. Do you know that they've got a wide variety of motorcycles and motorcycle accessories? Did you know that? And did you know that they've got snow machines over there? They've got all the four-wheelers. They've got all the accessories. I mean, when you walk in there, just stop, look around, and go, holy cow, how'd they get all this in here anyway? Well, I'll tell you what, it's a great, great shopping place for you, because that is where the fun is sold. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And don't forget they got a great service department, too, at Let's Ride. Absolutely some great folks. Oh, and by the way, if you're over in that neck of the woods, don't forget our professionals in the insurance business, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. As you're going into Rupert, right there on the curb, I'll tell you what, great folks with all your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. All you have to do is call them and make an appointment. They're very accessible and devoted to serving you. They do a great job. I can attest to that. Number to call, 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller.
Good morning, Zeb. Yeah, we're having a little bit of phone problems this morning, I guess.
What can I do for you?
On this thing about the minimum wage and this Democratic Party's desire to help the poor people, well, I say the raising the minimum wage is not going to help. It's going to actually hurt them.
Absolutely.
The only way that they're really going to help the poor people is to bring back to our country the manufacturing industry, you know, where they go to work in an assembly factory or something, you know, and then they work up, you know, up to the higher ends of, of the assembly process.
Yep.
But that's the only way that you're going to really help the poor people, is to get these manufacturing jobs back that we've lost to China, Mexico, places like that.
Well, you know, what you just said is 100% correct. Over the years, a culmination of many years, we have let America go down the drain with the loss of jobs, the loss of job opportunities, the shipping of these jobs overseas, and now they want to just basically give the totally ill-informed or not qualified people a start in life at $15 an hour, and no employer in his right mind is going to want to train somebody that might be here today, gone tomorrow, and lose that kind of money. And jobs will be outsourced like they are right now, and the situation is going to get worse.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the thing that's promoting this higher wages, especially in the minority community, they tend to want to go to work at McDonald's and then make that a career.
Yeah.
These entry-level jobs are not career jobs. They're, like, say, to teach the young worker to show up to work on time, how to work, how to, get along and have a relationship with the supervisor, the boss, the owner, whatever. I did several of those jobs when I was very young. And,
I did too.
It taught me how to be employable.
That's right. No, you're 100% correct. The other day, as a matter of fact, I saw a changing of shifts, if you will, at a certain place, and walking in the door were the employees for the next shift, and 2 out of the 3 guys that were walking in the door had their pants hanging way down below the crack of their butt. And if I were the employer, I'd have said, if you don't want a wedgie that's going to hurt permanently, you better get those pants pulled up if you're going to work for me.
Yeah, a lot of places should start implementing a apparel standard, a dress code for this particular job. Because if you have baggy pants or loose clothing and you're working around machinery, you could get hurt because you could grab that loose shirt sleeve or baggy pants or whatever and drag you into the machine.
Yeah, that's just the point, though, caller, is that I refuse in the past and I will refuse in the future. As long as I'm not going to retire myself, anybody that works for me will adhere to my dress code and my dress rules. If they don't want it, they can hit the road jack, and don't let the doorknob hit you in the posterior on the way out.
Yes, I agree with that 100%, because also along with that dress code, see, if you have a good dress code and you have your employees adhere to it, it's an image builder.
That's right. That's right.
So, all right, Zeb, you have a good one, and I hope you enjoy the day.
All right, sir. All right, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
You too.
Yeah, I am really fussy about this, and I'm going to take a quick second here and remark that if I were the employer and I saw somebody showing up for work that the public can see and will see, and they're, honestly, Deanna and I stood there in amazement and looked at this guy trying to walk with kind of the walk of a cow, so that he could keep his pants from falling completely down, and his butt, his underwear was hanging completely out. I would have been that employer. I'd have hired 2 professional bulldoggers to work at that job, and the minute somebody came in through the door with their pants down like that, give them a wedgie that would change their voice for the rest of their life. That's how adamant I am about this. Caller, stand by. I'll be right with you. Don't go away. I want to remind you the American Legion Post 82 and the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 82 in Eden is hosting a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for the Jim Coleman family that lost everything in a house fire. It's going to be on January 23rd at the Snug in Eden. The cost is $10. 100% of the proceeds going to the Colemans. Don't forget, too, our dear friends at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Oh, my buddy Ryan Horsley and the rest of the crew there to serve you. They are in Old Town, historic Old Town, Twin Falls since 1936, and they know guns. They know all about every kind of gun. Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester, all the ammunition, all the accessories, right there at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm sorry to keep her waiting, and very fortunate to have this lady back on the air with us again this Monday. Let's say good morning to Alliance Defending Freedom's Carrie Kupek. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Doing well, Zeb. How about yourself?
Well, we are enjoying right now, for the first time in a long time, some fairly clear skies and sunshine. How's everything back in? Oh, by the way, my Packers beat your Redskins. I just wanted to throw that at you.
Understandable.
Okay. Now, there's quite a few stories we want to get into this morning. Do you have a preference as to where we start first?
Sure. Let's start with the Planned Parenthood vote last week.
Okay.
And what happened there with President Obama. And as you know, and I'm sure many people are aware, there was a historic bill given to President Obama where Congress said we need to defund Planned Parenthood and redirect that money to the thousands of health care clinics across this country that provide wonderful health care services for women, for men, for anyone who walks through these doors, these public health care centers where people are desperate to get good health care, and these clinics really need that money. The money would have been, like I said, rerouted from Planned Parenthood to these facilities and to these clinics, and this bill went to President Obama's desk, and he vetoed it, which is very sad, but what I will say is this is the closest that we have ever gotten in American history to defunding Planned Parenthood, because keep in mind, Planned Parenthood gets about $528 million a year in taxpayer funds.
Let me ask you this. Our Governor Otter basically has taken a middle-of-the-road stance on Planned Parenthood, and our local illustrious newspaper, the Times News, has been very pushy of supporting Planned Parenthood. They said, well, nothing's going on here in the state of Idaho, so we don't have to worry about that. It's not just the states as a singular basis. It's what they do on a nationwide basis that should be offensive. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. They have a terrible, scandal-ridden track record. Abusive, potential and fraudulent billing practices. Obviously, with those videos that came out this summer, the top-level executives and doctors were caught in authenticated undercover videos trafficking aborted babies' body parts. And Planned Parenthood nationwide has repeatedly failed to report the sexual abuse of minor girls. If those aren't reasons to take a stand, say, no, we are not forcing our taxpayers to be complicit in the gross behavior of Planned Parenthood for one more day, and instead we're going to give that money to well-needing and well-deserving health clinics that provide great comprehensive health care for people who really need it. Well, I don't know what does.
Hey, Carrie, what are you encouraged at all, though you said just a moment ago that you were encouraged that that particular bill, really got that far, even though Obama will veto it. But what about continued legislation? What about continually getting something up in front of the news to let the American public know what's going on with this organization, Planned Parenthood? The media seems to be in bed with, per se, Planned Parenthood. How do we defeat that?
Right. The vote really should encourage us, though, that the goal is closer than it ever has been before. Never before has a bill that would have defunded Planned Parenthood and redirected that money to these federally qualified public health clinics. Has that happened before? That's never gotten to an American president. So President Obama, he vetoed it, okay, but if we get a pro-life president in office, and this is an election year, well, that legislation may just go through. It shows that Congress can get it done. And so we just need the right president who will sign off on it.
Let me ask you this. Of the candidates that are to the forefront right now for the GOP, which ones have said or made any remarks about Planned Parenthood to date?
I think most of them have. They have been very vocal in their opposition to the gross and inhumane practices of Planned Parenthood. That has come up at many of the debates. Remember, Carly Fiorina had a real shining moment when she talked in explicit detail about some of the disgusting behavior that Planned Parenthood had been exposed to be doing on those undercover videos. And all the candidates have made it very clear that they will support pro-life policies. So I would love to see this bill sitting on one of their desks, assuming that one of them gets elected. I think we have a very good chance of something like this happening should a pro-life president be elected. And there are a number of, I would say most of the candidates have made it pretty clear that supporting pro-life legislation would be a priority of theirs. Let's
not forget, and this is one program where I will continually put this out on my airwaves, there is going to be a March for Life in Washington, D.C. on January 22nd. Tell us a little bit about that, would you please?
March for Life is a beautiful event. It is the largest pro-life gathering in the world. I'm personally friends with the president of March for Life. She's an incredible human being. And this is an event where hundreds of thousands of people, many young people, come together, march on the lawn, march before the Capitol, and say, look, we are the pro-life generation, pro-life generations, and we will not tolerate the grossest human rights violation of our times, which is abortion. And it's a really wonderful gathering. There are speakers, but it really just sends a message to the president, to Congress, and it sends a real visual message that there are so many people across this country that are willing to come out on this cold and oftentimes snowy day and be a voice for the voiceless.
Let me ask you this. If you're good friends with the president, would you mind, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit, Carrie, but would you mind giving me her name and number after the program on an email, and I'd have her on my program, and we'll talk more about this. I'd be very supportive of this.
Sounds great. That sounds great.
All right. Now let's go to story number 2. And I got to be honest with you, these next 2 stories really made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I'm mad. In a nutshell, it looks like the cake bakery that would not bake a cake for a gay lesbian wedding, they are on the hot seat to where they've even had their accounts, all the money in their accounts taken out. What's going on here?
So you're talking about Aaron and Melissa Klein, who are 2 cake artists in Oregon. Melissa's a cake artist, and they lovingly serve everyone who walks through their door, provides them, for basically anything that people want, but they did not want to use their creative talents to promote and create custom work for a same-sex wedding ceremony. That's where they draw the line. They're Christians. And because they did not want to create one same-sex wedding cake, the state fined them $135,000.
Oh, my.
Unbelievable. And Melissa and Aaron paid that, and it looks like the state went in and seized money out of their personal bank accounts, including their tithing account. And I just can't even imagine how traumatic that must be to look inside your bank accounts and see that all of your money has been taken and it's gone. And it's really sad. They have a bunch of little children and providing for that family, and I can't even imagine what they must be feeling like right now. All because they did not want to use their talents to create custom work for one religious ceremony that directly violates the teaching of their faith.
Wait a minute, Carrie, I better check where my studio is. I thought I resided in the United States of America, where different opinions could be accepted as a First Amendment free speech. You mean to tell me that these people have lost their free speech? They've lost the ability to believe the way they want to believe, and they are coerced by having their arms twisted above their heads that all their money has to go towards an insidious gay and lesbian movement?
That's certainly the message that the state of Oregon is sending them. As to your point, a fundamental principle of America, a fundamental principle of our democracy, this country that we love so much, is that all Americans should be able to peacefully live and operate consistently with their religious beliefs. You don't check your faith at the door when you go to work on Mondays. Not at all. And for the government to punish people for just living consistently with their faith, for exercising their freedom of speech, and doing what they've always done is just frightening.
This is the tip of the iceberg, though, is it not, Carrie? Because if they, being the state of Oregon, can basically ruin financially this family, this opens up a Pandora's box. It can happen to anybody, anywhere that has a Christian faith and believes in Bible verses like Romans 1:27. They, the states of Oregon and anybody else, can come in and ruin you in the name and promotion of gay and lesbian lifestyles in this country. That is sick.
It's so disturbing because I always say to people, look, regardless of where you stand on the issue of marriage, regardless of whether you're even a religious person or not, it should deeply trouble you that the government can force and punish artists and force them to create custom work for an event, and in this case a religious ceremony, that directly violates their conscience and the core of who they are. That should not be happening in this country, and it completely undermines the First Amendment. It's so un-American, and it's very, very disturbing.
All right, now the last story we want to talk about this morning, and you know me well enough by now that I say kudos to Alabama Judge Roy Moore, the Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Roy Moore. Basically, he said, no, Alabama will not have same-sex marriages. Give us an update as to what's going on there.
So the history here is that in 2006, the people in Alabama went to the ballot box and affirmed marriage as a man-woman union in a state constitutional amendment. In fact, this amendment was passed by an 81% vote, 81%. And that was not too long ago. And then obviously the Supreme Court issued the marriage decision in Obergefell this past June, which imposed this false definition of marriage nationwide. And Justice Moore is reacting to that, and he has issued this order telling probate judges that to not issue these same-sex marriage licenses. And what's important to note is what this marriage decision by the Supreme Court did. It made things very, very confusing. There, you know, in the country, we had 35 of the states, but people exercised their constitutionally protected right to vote and affirm marriage as a man-woman union as an amendment, which is the proper legislative process. The Supreme Court then comes down and says, no, we are going to essentially unilaterally impose this new definition of marriage across the country. So now you have a lot of states who are confused. You have public officials who are confused. And we shouldn't be surprised. The dissenting justices in the marriage decision themselves said, look, this paints a very foreboding outlook on the future of religious freedom, the future of speech, and it's going to cause some major confusion.
Let me ask you this, Carrie, and you're close to these subjects every day at your office, but I would say this, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that right now the mood and the tidal wave in this country, that anyone like me or Justice Moore or you, anybody that stands up against the LGBT, they will take any amount of money and any amount of resources or any amount of power to bury us. And that, to me, is very scary in America.
What happened with this marriage decision is that, like the dissenting justices said, it really undermined the ability for people to exercise their religious freedom and their freedom of speech. Because, like you said, what it's being used as, used as a tool of intimidation, of threats, to force people, especially custom artists, which we're seeing across the country. You know, we have Jack Phillips, the cake artist in Colorado. We have Darnell Stutzman, the floral designer in Washington State. We had the T-shirt printer in Kentucky, and the list goes on and on. All of these people have been, again and again, really under attack by their own state governments who are trying to force them to send a message which completely violates the core of who they are. And like I said earlier, look, it really doesn't even matter where you stand on the issue of marriage. If you care about free speech, if you care about the future of religious freedom, and if you care about freedom generally, you need to care what the government is doing. Because if the government can force these people to promote and create custom work which violates the core of who they are, under threat of severe punishment, they can certainly do that to any of us on another issue.
You know, here's another speculative type question, but with this tidal wave being caused by the perverted society that we live in, how do we change it? How do we get back to some morality and some basics of goodness? I mean, what is it going to take for good people to stand up and get the power back in their favor?
The church needs to start talking about these issues from the pulpit. This is not a political issue, and you so often hear, churches shouldn't be involved in politics. Well, are we really calling the most pressing issues of our time political as a way of exempting, so to speak, the churches from speaking about it? These are issues of life. These are issues of family. The church needs to take its proper role as the moral conscience of society and encourage and inspire its members to look to their faith and look to see what they should be and how they should be voting and thinking about these issues. Another way to get involved is to be involved in the local level. I cannot tell you how many of these issues, by the time they get nationwide, so many of them were essentially undone at the very local level. I'm talking county and town council meetings, school board meetings. You would be shocked to know how much happens at that level and how much really a power people have within their communities to shape an issue for the entire country. So these are some things that can happen and should happen.
Absolutely. Carrie, I always look forward to and respect you highly as to what you do to present these stories every week from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you so much. God's blessings, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Talk to you Monday, Zeb.
Thank you very much. I really enjoy having her on the air. She's a straight shooter, and I really enjoy those people, the attorneys, all the folks with the Alliance Defending Freedom. We have got, in this country, you might not agree with this, but I'm going to say it the way I feel. We have got a real problem with bad and evil taking over and stepping on good and values. And if we don't stop this right now with a big, you're not going to go any further attitude, it's going to be too late. And I'll go back to my slogan that I say every day when I end this program, and it's really the truth. The way things were are the way things ought to be. We've got to get back to the basics. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I think there's one issue you need to get into, and that is that bipartisan budget act, which could drastically change Social Security for the rest of us that have paid into it all these years. We've got so many people coming in here that's never paid into it. They're going on our Social Security, bringing their extended families in.
You know, honestly, if you want to make me really upset, not you personally, Tony, but if anybody wants to make me really upset and have me just spit fire, it's absolutely telling me that I should pay for this or I should give more money for this. I'm 68 years old. You're a lot older than I am, and we've paid into the system that is now giving gratuities to people that don't deserve the effort. And I am very upset about the taking away from us and giving to others that couldn't care less. Does that give you my opinion on that?
Well, I think we need to have somebody on there that's really into this program that can bring it to the people of America just how much of a disaster this is going to be for people like you and people like me. I've got 86 coming up.
I'll tell you what I'm going to. I'm telling you what I'm going to do, Tony, and I appreciate and respect it when callers like you call me and want ideas and program segments. I am going to get on the phone this afternoon, right after this program, and I promise you, it's not going to be this week because I'm all booked up for this week, and I'm not going to change any of my segments. But I promise you, next week we will have some of the head dogs on this program discussing this. I promise you, Tony. Thank you so much.
I know. You're the best darn program that we've got on the air. That's just keep right on going.
Oh, buddy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
You know, I was talking to some senior citizens the other day that are older than I am. And they're very concerned, too, about what's going and what's falling apart from what they put in and what's expected to be paid to them over the next couple of years. Both of these people are in good health. Both of them could live well into their 80s and maybe even beyond. But why should they have what was promised to them taken away? And we're giving away to, like, oh my, the refugees, oh my, the illegal aliens. We're giving, and then we're told by the lunatic left, oh, well, come on, where's your Christian attitude? Wait a minute. My Christian attitude is that I'll help anybody at any time, and I'll reach down into my pockets to make sure that I give that assistance. But I don't need somebody else reaching into my pocket and giving away my money. Time for the weather, brought to you by Mountain Transmissions. And Rick and his crew can fix all makes and models. Cars, trucks, RVs, motorhomes. You got a little trouble with the tranny? You put it in drive the other day and you didn't really go anywhere? Well, you need to call Rick at 678-9110. Let me say that again, 678-9110. They're located at 504 East Main in Burley. They can help you with your transmission problems. Nothing worse than putting it in gear and you don't go anywhere. Well, you check it out today at Mountain Transmissions, 504 East Main in Burley. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather as we kick off another work week. Mostly sunny and slightly breezy for today. Expect a high of 30, overnight low of 17. Small, pretty much the same, but more clouds will be moving into the area. Wind's going to be picking up just a skosh. High of 34 with an overnight low of 19. Mostly cloudy and 37 for Wednesday. Afternoon sunshine for Thursday with a high of 35, but unfortunately as we get on into the weekend, looks like we do have some snow showers in the forecast. Highs are going to be in the low 30s. Yesterday's high was 29 degrees and the overnight low was 17. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
There you go, Gina. Thank you very much. Brought to everybody this hour by Mountain Transmissions. Great folks that understand transmissions and can fix them. 504 East Main in Burley, 678-9110. You know, most of the people I know, and I welcome your calls on this, most of the people I know and associate with are extremely gift-giving oriented. If somebody needs help, they will be there. I don't need the government creating a need of more of my money going out of my pocket without my permission. As I said, I will help anyone, I will help any group, but I'm not going to be coerced and forced. Nor am I going to run the risk of not being able to take care of me, my wife, and my family because of somebody else telling me I must give away my money. In a Christian society, of which I hope we still live in, if there's a need, we will be the first ones there to take care of the need. But when government gets involved and they take away from those of us that are receiving what we have earned and worked for, then I think it's time to pick up the pitchforks and head down Pennsylvania Avenue. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Just the other day, and I won't go into the entirety of the story, but some loony called me and said, well, why don't you go along with that? You don't give. And I said, wait a minute. You're talking to the wrong dog here, partner. My wife and I have given a lot over the years. And not only money, but also our resources and our time. And for some loony bin to call me up and chew, well, you don't like that because you don't want to give them, don't chip away at this tree. You better have a bigger axe. So many people will help, but when you start hurting people that are trying to help, you're destroying the entire society. And that's what's going on with this Obama administration right now. They are destroying our whole society. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Speaking of which, helping folks, don't forget, my dear friends, the Colemans, just a little bit south of Hazleton, and just basically right out my window, I can look straight north and almost see where they used to live until they had a devastating fire to lose their home. And they need clothing, they need furniture, they need cash donations, and Gene Brown was heading up everything and did a fantastic job. And the number to call, 731-901. 888-401-4718, or you can send cash donations to the American Legion Post number 82 at 401 Brooks Avenue in Hazleton. And for updates on what the family needs, of course, don't forget, you can go to the City of Hazleton Facebook page. And they are going to have a spaghetti dinner fundraiser, and that's going to be on January 23rd at the Snug Bar and Grill in Eden, $10 a person, and 100% of the proceeds goes right to the Coleman family. And they're also going to have a silent auction and live music starting at 7 p.m. with Gina Jones. So lots of people trying to help them out, and we appreciate that. Fire, dangerous things that have really devastated a lot of families, and they lost their home. The Colemans lost their home. Next hour, we're going to have our first of many Idaho legislative updates with Representative Fred Wood, Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, and Senator Kelly Anthon. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have James Taylor from Chicago, Illinois, with the Heartland Institute, tell you just really how blatantly false those series of climate change stories in the Times News were, and why we shouldn't really give them too much credence. We're going to have all of this and more. Stay tuned. Wheels is going to wheel us up to news time right now. I'll see you in 6. Yep, this is Zeb at the ranch, not Zeb at a Rolling Stones concert. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them today, 734-6969. Real quick, before we start our Idaho legislative update, I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley, and today's special, this is one of my very favorites of all time, Monte Cristo sandwiches with veggies and choice of side and super salad. Oh, my, that's good. Monte Cristo sandwiches at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Get in there today. Tell them Zeb sent you. Great specials, great menu choices, really nice people at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Also, I want to say thank you very much to 2 sponsors that help us with the Cassia County School Days on Thursdays, and that's A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, 40 to 50% off right now on winter items like clothes, hats, and coats, and they've got all the games and the toys, everything for all the little wee ones, the babies, at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also a big thank you to the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call and save hundreds of dollars on your surgeries like knee and foot surgery and, of course, colonoscopies, 677-8888. That's the number to call. Ambulatory Surgery Center, along with A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, it's my pleasure to introduce on the first of many of the Idaho legislative updates from the legislative session in Boise for 2016, Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I am great. Well, tell us, what is happening this morning? Is everybody all tingly and excited about starting the legislative session for this year?
You know, Zeb, I think they pretty much are. You kind of get a feeling even as people gather, and we all got together last night for a little taco salad dinner from the speaker, at least all of the Republicans did, and everybody was in a pretty good mood. And the most important thing, everybody was looking forward to a short session.
Now, when you say short session, what? Are you looking at maybe the end of February, 1st of March? Would that be considered a short session?
Short session would be either the 18th or the 25th of March.
Okay. Now, what
18th would be a short one. The 25th would be short normal. As long as we don't go into April at all, we're fine.
Okay. What do you think, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Fred, but what do you think is going to be the prominent actions that you have to take up there this year? What are some of the subjects?
Well,
constitutionally, the only thing that the legislature really has to do is to set the budgets. Now, that process takes until about the 10th of March, and then we have to bring all the budgets out on the floor, and we have to pass them. There is significant legislation to pass with respect to education. All that has been worked out with the interim committee. My understanding is that, for the most part, that has pretty much been agreed to. I don't see any real major fight there. Governor Otter's push has been in education. Last year we committed, the legislature committed ourselves significant spending over the next 5 years, including last year, for new money in education. And we're on track to do that, and I don't see anybody saying that we should change our course or change our mind. There is work to do in education, but I don't expect any major fights or anything there, Zeb.
Okay.
Next item, as you know, on Thursday passed, the governor rolled out his plan for the Gap population. It's an Idaho plan. It doesn't use any federal dollars. It's not an expansion of Medicaid. Doesn't have anything to do with Medicaid. To try to get these folks in the Gap population into a medical home, get them at least primary care coverage as a first step going forward to ensure those citizens of Idaho that don't have any health care financing at this point in time.
Okay.
We have about 5 interim committees out. We're under threat of a federal lawsuit because we simply don't have enough public defenders to defend our criminals that have no way of paying when they get arrested and face charges. That is going to be a significant heavy lift. I'm not sure what we're going to do about that yet. There's a significant review of Idaho's purchasing process and the entire purchasing process for the state in light of the fiasco of the Idaho Education Network and a couple of major IT projects that have gone bust in the past. I think we will see significant legislation reforming the purchasing process for the state of Idaho, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
I don't think much will be done with taxes this year. I think there will be a fight over gambling. There will be a fight over horse racing. There will be a fight over guns. There will be a fight over Planned Parenthood, and there will be a fight over abortion. The usual fights before an election year.
Let me just jump in here and let's pinpoint some of those fights, if you will. And I'd like your opinion on these. Number one, let's talk about Planned Parenthood. I'm going to come right out and say that I think Governor Otter took a middle-of-the-road stance and basically said, well, Idaho doesn't have a dog in that fight. Well, it's not necessarily just the state of Idaho. It's the entire story of Planned Parenthood nationwide, and what they've done, I think, in a negative response to human lives with babies, I think it should be looked at, and I don't think it should be a middle-of-the-road issue. Am I wrong?
Well, what Governor Otter was responding to is several legislators wrote in and said that we should investigate the money that we give to Planned Parenthood. Well, Idaho doesn't give any money to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is strictly a federal allocation that doesn't go through the state process. So what he said is I'm sorry, but there's nothing to investigate there if what you want us to investigate is what, the state money we give them.
Okay.
We don't give them any.
All right.
So, that was kind of a moot point. Now, what Idaho does do is they are a Medicaid provider. And basically what they provide services for in Idaho is cancer screening, pap smears, etc. And they're a fairly small player. They don't do very much, quite frankly. And so some Medicaid money as for the preventive services that they provide for women and children. But that's all. I think the only thing that Idaho could do, and the Attorney General is looking at the statute to determine whether or not we can, is that we could revamp our anatomical gift provision that has to do with fetuses. We may take a look at that and determine whether or not that needs to be. But that's the only thing that, but nobody in Idaho does that anyway. But that's one thing that we could do.
Okay.
But no, you're right. It's not a middle-of-the-road issue. But everybody presumes that Planned Parenthood operates in Idaho the same they do in other states, and that's simply not the truth. Some states, Zeb, award a bunch of state money to Planned Parenthood. Idaho's never done that.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw another subject at you that I think is absolutely meritorious of scrutiny by our legislature and our governor, and that's the refugee system. I have been criticized by the Times News and also the college as far as my stance against the CSI Refugee Center and the welcoming in with open arms any and all refugees. And I have said that there is not a vetting process that is really 100% foolproof, and that bears out because we just saw on the front page of the USA Today last week on Friday, 2 Iraqi refugees had joined ISIS, and even though they had sworn their oath to the United States to become naturalized U.S. citizens, were working under the table with ISIS to try to do something very disruptive on the East Coast. I think the vetting process is not worth a hill of beans. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's a federal process, but I would agree. I don't think they have a clue as to what they're doing. Now, I've not looked at their process, and I've not investigated it, but from what I can see. But let me tell you what I think should happen. And first of all, my comments will be restricted to the refugee program, not the immigration program. They're entirely different.
Absolutely.
The immigration program is an economically based program. The refugee program is a politically based program. I disagree with what the United States is doing in the refugee program. I think that the entire refugee program should be temporarily halted for somewhere between 6 months and 2 years. And then, and I'm not talking about just from the Middle East. I'm talking about the entire world.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then I think that the only political refugees that we should ever accept are around the world. There are people in every nation that are willing to help the United States, particularly the United States military, in the face of great peril to themselves. We had a lot of people in Iraq that helped the U.S. military a lot, and a lot of those people died doing it. And the ones who lived died too because we couldn't get them out of there in time. But the refugee program should be limited strictly to the people who are willing to help us at the risk of their own lives and their families' lives. And only those people should ever be eligible to come in here from a refugee program point of view. And then we should have a vetting process that is, we should know every single day that these people ever spent before they ever get here.
Absolutely.
And then we have a very limited, small refugee program.
Fred,
That's my take.
I absolutely respect that, and I thank you for that viewpoint. Now, I want to shift gears, and I want to go to another subject that a lot of people are concerned about on a federal level and how it might affect them here in the state of Idaho. What about gun legislation or new gun thoughts and laws? Please bring us up to speed on your thoughts.
Well, first of all, there are going to be, in my opinion, a multitude of gun bills brought. I don't know how many of them are going to make it, if any of them will make it. The big debate here is going to be whether or not, who's going to win out? Private property rights or gun rights. And the big fight will be over whether private property owners, and principally employers, can restrict the carrying of weapons on their private property, like Micron, Idaho Power, you name your big company or small company or anybody else for that matter. Are they going to be forced by the government to allow anybody to bring guns on their property or their employees to carry guns on their property, etc., or not? And that's a real dilemma, Zeb, if you stop and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pitting one constitutional right in effect against another.
Right.
And everybody's kind of nervous about taking on either one of those, quite frankly, because that's a no-win situation. I personally have a real issue with felons and the mentally ill. And I'm not talking about PTSD. I'm talking about the definition of persistent and severe mental illness. I'm not talking about depression or whatever. No, I'm talking about, and there's a very strict definition of severe and persistent mental illness. And I don't think that the severe and persistent mentally ill nor felons should be able to carry guns around. I just have a real issue with that personally.
You know, Fred, let me interrupt you right.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you that the real big issue is going to be pitting those two constitutional rights against one another.
I agree. Now, not to carry this thing further into the barrel pit, but I want to get some answers on this. What is a compromise issue? I mean, on the one hand, naturally, you have the NRA and you have the Second Amendment. On the other hand, you have the Obama administration and a lot of federal people that would like to see almost a confiscation of guns. Is there a central ground where gun owners and the Second Amendment can still have their sovereignty, if you will, and not burden gun owners with a lot of excess laws that are going to potentially take their guns away?
Well, I don't know. I'm always going to side with the Second Amendment, quite frankly. I mean, you know, I don't have a problem looking at and trying to figure out how we can keep guns out of those two categories that I mentioned. But, you know, I'm always going to side with the side of the Second Amendment. I mean, if there's an issue, I mean, if there's a balancing act to do, well, the balance is going to have to be in favor of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. Real quick, and I'm almost out of time, Fred, there are other issues that I know are going to be coming up on the table, and that's water issues. Every year, that's a very poignant a part of the legislative session. Tell us what you think might happen.
The only real issue left to litigate in terms of water that the Idaho Supreme Court hasn't come down on is the fill-refill issue with the reservoirs. Now, there are two lawsuits in front of the district court at this point in time. It probably will take 3 or 4 months to get those back, so I don't anticipate having that back, and then they will have to go through the Supreme Court process. So my understanding of water legislation is there's a couple of 3 or 4 tweaks that the Water Users Association is bringing that are not significant at all. But I don't foresee any significant water legislation this year simply because the controversial subject is still in front of the courts. And for the legislature to do anything without having definitive court action so we know what we're really doing, is foolish. And that's what I'm hearing everybody say. And so at this point in time, that's my take. We're not going to see anything significant go on this year. That may not be true next.
Okay. Now, what about, there's always in every legislative session some hidden surprise, or somebody opens the door and out jumps another problem. Are you anticipating any other problems that you thought had been laid to rest? Are they going to jump up again this year?
I can't think of any right off the bat. That may become clearer in the next 2 or 3 weeks when we report back to you each Monday. If I had to guess, one of the social issues that may turn out to be a real fight is the issue over gambling. That may, and horse racing. That may be a bigger thing than some people think.
Okay. Now, what's on the schedule for this week? I know you start this morning, but what happens this week? I mean, you got kind of a shake hands, the governor's going to get involved. Give us kind of a real quick synopsis of what's on the calendar.
Okay, we convene at 12 o'clock today. We have a joint session of the legislature, which is fairly rare, except once a year at the beginning. The State of the State is at 1 o'clock. We should wind that up by 2 o'clock. The House Health and Welfare Committee starts business at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, as does JFAC. I don't know if any other committees are going to get up and running. They typically don't, at least until Wednesday or Thursday. The Health and Welfare Committees have by far the largest amount of rules to review, so we'll be working for the next 2 weeks strictly on approving or disapproving the executive branch rules. Most committees won't do anything but have a little organizational session this week. The tax committee may get starting to work on Thursday and Friday. We are going to have an educational course, the entire legislature, tomorrow on civil discourse, so that we can argue with one another without winding up on the front page of the Statesman and the Times News, etc. But that's about what's going on this week. I don't know who will be on the radio next week. Most likely either the Speaker or Senator Anthony, because I'll have a committee meeting. But one of us will be there for sure.
All right. God bless you, and the very best for a great legislative session 2016. Representative Fred Wood, a dear friend of this program. God bless. Thank you so much, Fred, and look forward to having you back.
Zeb, thank you so much, and God bless all the listeners.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. That man, ever since we've had him on the air as a representative for this state of Idaho, has done an outstanding job of going through all the issues and discussing them and kind of the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. And I really want to pay him a compliment. He does a wonderful, wonderful job, and thank you for being on the program. Now, this is a weekly segment. We're going to have at 10:06 every Monday, and if you have questions as to what's going on up at the legislative session, whether it's about water, whether it's about education, whether it's about anything to do with gun laws, whatever the situation might be, please call into the segment. And like I said, next week we'll probably have the Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, on, and or Senator Kelly Anthon. And you can ask them questions about what's happening or what did happen, and they'll give you a live response right here on the program. Legislative update every Monday right here on Zeb at the Ranch at 10:07 on my program. We're going to get ready to send this over to Wheels, and he's going to take it for the next couple of minutes, and we'll be back with our next guest, James Taylor with the Heartland Institute out of Chicago, Illinois, so stay tuned.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you, and welcome back to our last half hour of the program on a Monday, already January 11th. Holy cow. I am blessed with the caliber of guests that I have on this program, all across the United States and, for that matter, the world. And here's one of them that I always look forward to having on our program. And he represents the Heartland Institute back in Chicago, Illinois. I'd like to say a good morning to James Taylor. Good morning, James. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing well. Thank you.
By the way, what is the very cold temperature back there? I understand a cold snap is hit back in the Midwest, and what's it currently in Chicago?
Well, when I arrived at the office this morning, it was it was 2 degrees, and it was -2 when I woke up this morning.
So evidently the Democrats and climate change, it's so much warmer, I don't understand why you just didn't wear a T-shirt and shorts to the office this morning.
Right, and this is, you really lead into an important point here, because oftentimes the alarmists and the left, they'll say, the skeptics are saying, or the deniers as they call it, they're saying that the winter cold disproves global warming. How silly is that? Winter's always cold. But the point is, they have been predicting and claiming, and it's in the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, that because of global warming, we will no longer have cold outbreaks, that we will no longer have the snowfall that we get. The assertion is that global warming will be so overwhelming, so without any room for any cold whatsoever, that we're not going to have winters like we imagine. So, yes, indeed, when you make the prediction that we're not going to have cold spells like this, when we have cold spells like this, yes, it does disprove your alarmist global warming assertions.
James, you study this every day. This is your job. And I called James on the phone last week and asked him if he could come on my program because our illustrious Times News did a series of climate change articles where I personally went through and highlighted almost each and every article for the misclaims and, quite frankly, the lies and innuendos that weren't true in those stories. And you, in turn, wrote a response to our local paper, a response to climate change stories. Give us a little background as to why you got involved and wrote that rebuttal.
Well, I came across an article that was apparently published in the Twin Falls newspaper and the other one, the Post-Register. I forget what city it's out of. But essentially, the writer, he starts by explaining the 6-day series in the Post-Register, the Lewiston Tribune, the Idaho Statesman, the Times News. I guess it was all 4 of those. And it starts off by talking about the political discussion and basically trying to make the assertion that all scientists in the world agree that humans are causing a global warming crisis, and anyone who disagrees is simply because they're listening to Rush Limbaugh and parroting what he says without giving it much thought. The article then has a section on, quote, the scientific consensus, in which it gets just a whole host of facts wrong, and then it follows up with a section called the political non-consensus, in which it essentially tries to browbeat and shame legislators who don't vote according to the garbage that was put in the scientific consensus section, which was all wrong. Rather than being an article that should be looked at with derision for these legislators who are voting according to a skeptical viewpoint, it's actually, this whole article shows you just how uninformed and overtly political the global warming alarmists are. And those Idaho representatives and legislators who are voting according to sound science should be commended.
Let me ask you this, James. The stories that the Times News put in there on climate change, they could be and should be and will be made fun of because they're like Swiss cheese with the facts. But even though the media, like the newspapers we mentioned, can put the wrong facts or not honest facts in the paper, they get away with it because the media is on the side of climate change and the Obama administration. So how do we fight that?
We fight that by doing what we're doing right this very moment. People like Zed Bell, they're spreading the truth. We fight that by writing letters to the editor, to the local newspaper, like I did, in which you noticed. And guess what? You're not the only person who notices. So when people become involved, they make a difference. You do that by letting your legislators know that you appreciate them standing up for truth, even when they're getting slammed by the media for doing so, because it's very easy for a legislator to believe that simply because the media is always beating up on him or her, that therefore that's what people think. But it's not the case at all. But fortunately, we have access to information that we did not have 40 years ago. 40 years ago, we just have to take the word of ABC, CBS, and NBC. But now we can go look up the scientific information for ourselves, and we can see where the media is trying to dupe us into believing something that's not true.
James, bottom line, and I've got some other offshoot questions I want to ask you going backwards, but right now, what is the bottom line for the climate change theory and what they want to do? What do they want to do? How do they want to change it? And what do they think they would create as far as a normalcy?
They want us to believe that the issue that needs to be resolved is whether or not there is any global warming. That's not an issue in dispute among skeptics and alarmists. So we know we're not in the Little Ice Age anymore. The Little Ice Age ended 150 years ago, by the way, before people drove SUVs and before we had coal-fired power plants. We've been warming since the end of the Little Ice Age. That's a good thing. So they want to mislead the discussion. The discussion is whether humans are causing a global warming crisis, not whether some warming's occurred, not even if humans are causing it. So by just saying has there been some warming, then it makes it seem like anyone who disagrees is an idiot, and therefore we all need to jump off the cliff like lemmings. But the ulterior motive is that they want more government control of our energy policy, of our freedom to take away our choices, and they want to have a regime where you have all sorts of money and power funneled not just to government but to environmental activist groups, which are going to tell us what to do to enhance their power and their budgets as well.
James, tell me if I'm wrong on this figure, but of the studies that I've read and different pieces of information, the annual bill for a clean power plan for this administration and on into the future would cost us, the American taxpayers, an additional $41 billion with a B dollars annually. $41 billion a year. It's not economically feasible.
Right. Forcing people to reduce carbon dioxide emissions means that what you're doing is you are banning our most affordable sources of energy. You're banning coal in particular, and then to a lesser extent, but still to a significant degree, natural gas. And you're forcing people to utilize wind and solar power, which are extremely expensive. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. They say wind and solar prices have come down dramatically. Yeah, from about 10 or 20 times the cost of conventional power to about 5 times the cost of conventional power. But if you're paying $200 a month for an energy bill, the difference between $200 a month and $1,000 a month is still huge, even if it's come down quite a bit. So there are some very serious economic consequences involved.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please.
Yes, I've been reading, and I always do read and study as much as I can, and I come to the conclusion that these environmental groups are experts at litigation against government entities, EPA, BLM, Bureau of Reclamation, Forest Service, and it goes on. And they're just constantly in court with these people, and it's just unbelievable. And in some cases, they're using taxpayer money to sue the own entities that we're supposed to have control over, and I'll hang up.
Very good question and response. Go ahead, James, if you would, please. Your rebuttal to him, please.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question and comment. One of the biggest outrages in terms of what our government is doing these days is that EPA engages in sue and settle instances. And what this does is basically EPA will encourage environmental activist groups to sue, claiming that EPA is not following through on this, or EPA missed a deadline on that, or whatever it may be. And then once they sue, now EPA, they don't have to go through rulemaking, they don't have to go through public comment, they don't have to go through administrative law. Now they can have a quote-unquote settlement, where you have a settlement usually means two parties that are adversarial to each other, but in this case, EPA is populated by environmental activists. So they get together, they come up with more far-reaching environmental restrictions and more costly environmental programs than they could ever get through the normal course of government. They agree to this quote-unquote settlement, and now it's illegally enforceable in a court of law. It's a complete outrage and something that needs to change in the next administration.
Let me ask you this. According to some of the paperwork I have here that I've gathered as far as data is concerned, there is a general consensus by many, many scientists, and I've talked to many from all the way in New York all the way to California, that we are going into and have started into a cooling trend, a cyclical cooling trend for the last 19 years. The Earth is cooling as it has warmed and cooled ever since its inception and beginning. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's no doubt that the Earth has undergone modest cooling over the past, at least, if you want to just be generous to the alarmists, at least for the past 14 years. And it's, depending on how you want to cut and slice the data, you can make the case for 18 or 19 years. And it's potentially an even larger time period in which we would see that cooling. The Earth's climate does, temperatures do increase and decrease according to cycles. Some of them are quite complex. But it does not just behave in a manner that is, that is the same over time, that rises steadily, falls steadily, or stays the same. But we can expect that although carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, we can expect we're causing some warming, not much, but a little bit. But we can expect that cycles, natural cycles, will continue to predominate as they have throughout the Earth's history.
Let me ask you this. Some of the things you never hear these people talk about, these so-called experts on climate change, they never talk about the values of CO2. They never talk about the values of warmer climates for better agricultural and better crops. They never talk about the better health conditions for people living in a warmer climate. Why isn't this ever brought up in honesty and fairness to the issue?
Well, because it's inconvenient for their narrative that they want people to believe we're facing a global warming crisis that requires a substantial transfer of wealth and power to governments. But you bring up some fantastic points. We know for a fact, it's documented in the U.S. Mortality statistics, far more people die during the winter months than during the summer months. It's cold temperatures that kill, not warm temperatures, for a lot of reasons. When you're outdoors being active in cold temperatures, your arteries, your blood vessels, they constrict. You're more likely to suffer stroke. You're more likely to suffer heart attack. We also have deadly viruses such as influenza that are greatly aided by cold temperatures. And it's not just mortality statistics. As you mentioned, crop production benefits substantially with longer growing seasons, fewer frost events, and more carbon dioxide in the air. We have a retreat of deserts globally. You don't hear about that. But deserts are retreating globally. There's been a greening of the Earth that's been measured objectively, quantitatively by satellites. We see that extreme weather events, even when the Earth warms, we're not going to see hurricanes all of a sudden disappear or tornadoes cease to exist. And every time one occurs, they're going to blame it on global warming. But we do know from objective data from the federal government, from NASA, from NOAA, et cetera, that tornadoes are becoming less frequent and severe. Hurricanes are becoming less frequent and severe. Droughts are becoming less frequent and severe. Essentially, just about any way you want to look at it, and these are objective numbers, you see that whether you're looking at extreme weather events, whether you're looking at mortality, whether you're looking at any other factor, global warming has, as it always has done, it continues to benefit human health and welfare. Warmer temperatures are better. Colder temperatures have a definite strain on human health and welfare.
This administration, James, is hell-bent on making more changes and going deeper into our billfolds and our pocketbooks for more of our money for climate change. I honestly think this week or next week, this president is going to do some severe thinking about executive orders on climate change. What are your thoughts and your fears as to how bad it's going to get before Obama leaves office?
Well, he will do everything he can. He's going to figure out, as he has done on other issues, the farthest he can stretch this without causing a literal revolt. And his decisions in so many areas have been far beyond what the law would require. The problem is the courts basically say, well, this is an effort. If you think he's overstretching his bounds, well, then the answer is to have people vote him out of office. But, of course, people as a whole tend to like Obama. They voted him into office even though they disapproved of his policies. But here's the thing. It's not just Obama. It's our representatives in Congress. Congress has the power of the purse. Obama can only do what he is funded to do. And for all the people in Congress who rail and say that, oh, they're with us, and they complain about whether it's Obama's environmental actions, his health care actions, whatever it may be, Congress has a simple remedy. You don't fund it. But they fund it anyway because they don't want to make hard decisions. They don't want to have to defend it. They'd rather grandstand than do something to change what's going on in Washington, D.C. And I'll tell you what, if this continues, there are a lot of folks in D.C. who think they're representing the people, who think they're representing limited government, that are going to be in for a rude surprise on Election Day.
Do you think that most of the Congress, whether it's the Senate or the House, most of these people are not well-read or educated on the subject, and they go along just to get along? Is that the major problem back there?
Well, I mean, that's part of it. You can't expect them to be an expert on every single issue. I think the bigger problem is that they don't want to make a stand. They fear that, if we step up on a controversial issue, the media will beat up on us. They'll claim we're shutting down government. Well, if you pass a budget, Obama vetoes the budget, who shut down government? It's not the people that voted to authorize government continuing to exist, continuing to have funding. It's the guy who vetoed it. They're afraid to have that fight. But what they realize is that the more they give in, the more they're empowering Obama, the more ground they're losing. It's not about their political careers. It's about the strength of the American Republic, and they're falling asleep at the switch.
James, last question. Are you seeing notes of optimism? Are you seeing changes in certain groups in certain areas of the country to where they're waking up to the fact that we're being force-fed basically a lie?
Yes, and as much as I'm frustrated with what's going on in Washington, D.C. by people who claim to be sympathetic to sound science and limited government, at the grassroots level, you see progress. You see people understanding the science. You see people holding their elected officials' feet to the fire. And I think that as time goes by, it's going to be harder and harder to get anything done to restrict our carbon dioxide emissions and, more importantly, to restrict our energy choices unless it's done by President Obama in the next 8 or 9 months. After that, I think that I'm optimistic.
I really enjoy having this gentleman on the program. He's very knowledgeable about this subject, and I thank very much. James Taylor with the Heartland Institute in Chicago. Thank you, sir. God bless, and I'll be in touch to have you back. Thank you again.
Thank you, Zeb. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Very, very interesting man, James Taylor with the Heartland Institute. And I personally was really offended by some of the stupidity, and it was some of the stupidity that was in the Times News with their climate change articles. They weren't very well researched, and they made numerous mistakes and errors, and also kind of a pie-in-the-sky attitude that you should just follow them like a Pied Piper right over a cliff. Not going to happen here. Speaking of the weather, we'd better get the weather on here right now. Wheels is probably wondering, what are you doing over there? Well, Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. You know, when you bring your meat into Scarrows Meats, you can be very confident, right 100%, that you're going to get the same animal back that you took in. And believe me, you can rest assured that you're getting the best. Yours, cut and wrapped and ready for your freezer from Scarrows Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather as we kick off another work week. Mostly sunny and slightly breezy for today. Expect a high of 30, overnight low of 17. Tomorrow, pretty much the same, but more clouds will be moving into the area. Wind's going to be picking up just a skosh. High of 34 with an overnight low of 19. Mostly cloudy and 37 for Wednesday. Afternoon sunshine for Thursday with a high of 35, but unfortunately, as we get on into the weekend, looks like we do have some snow showers in the forecast. Highs are going to be in the low 30s. Yesterday's high was 29 degrees, and the overnight low was 17. That's your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Always providing you the best in meat and the best in service. Our friends with Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Call them today at 324-7657. I've got time for a couple of ads right now. Give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd love to hear what your comments would be for the remainder of this program. Once again, I want to reiterate, and I said that I would help as much as I can on the radio. The American Legion Post 82 and American Legion Auxiliary. Come on, call in, everybody. Number 82 in Eden is hosting a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for the Jim Coleman family that lost everything in a house fire about a week ago. And this fundraiser dinner is going to be held January 23rd from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Snug Bar and Grill in Eden. And the cost is $10, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Colemans. And I also want to reiterate that if you want to find out more about what they need, like clothing and furniture and, of course, money donations, go to the City of Hazleton Facebook page, and they'll have that information on there, okay? Take care of that, if you would, today. Thank you very much. Let's see, what else have we got here? Nice guy off the basketball court. You know, when people that are involved in professional sports or college sports do something really, really nice for their community or mankind in general, it should be applauded. And I noticed a little story. There wasn't that much on it, but Kevin Durant, one of my favorite basketball players in the NBA. I mean, this kid has got all the talent. He's got all the ability. He's with a top-notch team, and he's also very community-oriented. He's done so much to help other people. I mean, tornado victims in the Oklahoma area a year ago. Well, now a girl that was in dire need of having some tests and money for cystic fibrosis, Kevin Durant jumped right in with both hands and is helping as much as he can to raise funds for this young lady. And that is what it's all about. Celebrity status, Kevin Durant, and using it for the betterment of his community and other people. And I really want to salute him. There's a lot of people, we hear about all the negativity, whether it's the Barry Bonds or whether it's the Roger Clemens or whomever in sports doing this wrong and that wrong. Hey, here's a kid that absolutely is doing things right, and I really salute him. Kevin Durant, superstar Oklahoma City Thunder basketball player, helping a lot of people in need. God bless him. I appreciate it. We still have time for some of your calls. Give me a jingle on the landline. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations. They've got all the traction tires. You better believe it, the forecast calling for some snow towards the week's end. They've got all the different tread design. Like I said, they've got the studded snow tires. They've got the tire chains. They've got it all for you. And they've got all your performance tires that you need for your cars, like the Proxys ST2. Man, superior performance, excellent in wet and dry traction. They've got them all. Plus, they've got the best in brake service, professionally trained technicians, and premium quality parts, serving you at all 7 locations, along with the front end alignments, the shocks and the struts and the batteries, all of this and more, with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, the old Seahawk fan, boy did he get lucky, on Overland in Burley. Oh my. Minnesota Vikings missing a short little dinky 81-foot, 27-yard field goal, and the Seahawks beat the Minnesota Vikings. And Randy on Overland is a happy camper. What do we got scheduled for tomorrow? Let's take a look. Excuse me for the cough. First and foremost, first off in the morning from 8 to 9, we've got an open forum, and we're going to be discussing quite a few different topics tomorrow morning. 9:06 tomorrow, Frosty Woolridge, and we're going to be talking about immigration and also the refugee problem across the United States. Then we've got a couple of ladies scheduled for tomorrow to talk about various topics. Obama and his inability to really control our borders, one topic, and then we're going to talk to Dr. History at 10:06. We got a lot of things planned on the Tuesday program. Let's see what else have we got here. I gave you the PSA for the Coleman family, and I want to remind you, one other thing. I've had a lot of people say they want to get the Cow Pies and Coffee Cups newsletter, the blog, once a week. All you have to do is go to Zeb at the Ranch, zebbell.com, click on give us your email address, and we'll make sure that it gets sent to you. I am very, very honored to say that we are now in almost every state in the United States. I think 47 states, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands are getting the newsletter from secondary sources, passing it on and everything. My goodness, it's just elaborate to try to come up with those numbers. So Cow Pies and Coffee Cups, go to zebbell.com, give us your address, we'll make sure that you get it. Until tomorrow at 10:06, we'll saddle the horse and we'll ride for 3 hours. And right here on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live, like I said, zebbell.com. And my engineer over at the studio doing a great job every day. Wheels, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. And we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning.